So, unless you've been under a rock, there have been some reports about the situation. I guess we'll back up a little bit because on Wednesday night when CM Punk came out, before he addressed Mox, he referenced Hangman Page, which was very odd. It didn't fit in with the whole, like, especially when you look at the opening segment as a whole, it didn't fit in. And so obviously people were questioning that. There was a report that came out that said that the first report actually came out and then they had to go back and edit it because they had incorrect information. But the first report that came out was saying that Punk and Hangman do have some heat. They have some issues because of something that Adam Page said on TV about Colt Cabana. And then, but originally the report that came out from Select was saying that they got the dates wrong. Like they were saying that he said it when Punk was not there, which is incorrect. He said it to Punk's face.
It was in a promo.
Yeah, it was in a promo to Punk's face. So he didn't like. So
and it was, if I remembered when they started talking about it, I'm like, this is the promo where he said that nobody I remember this promo because this was a promo where he was telling him that like people in the back didn't respect him.
Right. And that he was protecting. And then that's where Hangman said he was protecting AEW from CM Punk. Because that was weird because in that timeline, that was also like, I think fans were having a hard time with Hangman because they weren't really sure, I guess, like what his motive was, obviously, other than holding on to his title. And so people were like, so then they were like, oh, the protect AEW thing. Okay, well, then I guess this is his like motivation or whatever. But then because the original, then they had made some comment that said that he said he said something about Colt Cabana.
He made a reference to the workers' lawsuit as well.
Yeah, and so, but there was a workers' right thing, and Hangman did say that when Punk was not there. Punk was off filming. I think that's when he was filming Hills 2. So that was the only week. But when he did talk about Colt Cabana, like where it was more obvious that's what he was talking to, he said it directly to CM Punk's face. So there was that kind of discrepancy.
Which they've had go on in AEW, but it would seem, given what's gone on, that was not something they cleared with each other.
Right.
A lot of times when you see that happening, and the thing is, they have had a they tell you even right after we had a conversation. Like the stuff with Jack Perry where he referenced his dad.
Right.
Is a good example.
Well, and then I was thinking about even like the stuff with MJF and Brian Pillman Jr.
Yep.
with his
family.
Had
all talked about that.
Right,
stuff.
Exactly. And so, and they were saying, so there was questions whether Hangman was in the building from reports that have come out yet afterwards. Yes, he was in the building when that happened. He was not scheduled, I guess, to be on TV that night. So that was so there was that kind of an issue. There was some reporting saying that one of the things that, because when I first read the report, I was like, okay, I'm kind of not surprised because CM Punk has had some issues before backstage before, and he has a reputation for sometimes being an asshole. So like that, I wasn't. So at first, when I first read it, I kind of was like, well, I guess I'm not surprised that this is happening. But then I went back and read it, and I was like, something's not right. Something is not adding up here. And I was like, so I reread it, and it was saying that CM Punk went to the higher ups and then came out of it and said that he basically ensured that he was gonna win the title. But that timeline doesn't make sense because going into this feud, we all knew CM Punk was going to beat Hangman Page because that was the whole reason they were doing this feud. We knew and most people before obviously all the MJF stuff happened, the thought for most fans was Hangman is going to lose to CM Punk. CM Punk will drop the title to MJF probably at All Out in Chicago, because that will be the bigger reaction is to have MJF beat Punk in his hometown. Like that would be huge for MJF. Like that, it's huge for the story they've told. He gets his win back, that type of thing. So and another thing I want to point out is AEW has known who their first 4 champions were going to be. They probably know who the next 4 will be. MJF not being there probably threw some of that off, unless that's because obviously there are theories that there's storyline wise.
So
now there's these
theories. Work.
Right, yeah. If this is, and maybe that's what some people are saying, is this entire thing work? Like, is this stuff with CM Punk, that information coming out now, is this a work to bring MJF back in? But so regardless, if we move away from the work for just a second, like, CM Punk getting injured was not part of their plans, clearly.
Yeah, right.
And so that throws things off, because he was champion for 5 days. He has not defended his title yet. And so we knew whoever the interim champion would be a temporary champion, hence the term interim. We figured it was going to be about a 3-month thing. So like that, so it felt really weird when that original report said that it was like, well, sources say he said that he wasn't going to lose. Well, I don't think he was ever going to lose. So I don't understand. I can see going to the higher ups and being like, I'm uncomfortable with the Colt Cabana stuff like that. I don't really like that he's doing that. Like, I can see maybe going to them and be like, can we kind of back off of this stuff, or who knows what was set up there. But the idea that CM Punk went in there and was like, I'm not dropping, or I'm not losing, like, I'm not jobbing. And that was another thing. I was talking to somebody else. They were like, even though CM Punk has had issues with creative and other companies before, he never complained about jobbing to people. Like, if they wanted him to lose to somebody, he would do it. And that seems a kind of out of character that he would say that not that he's playing politics, but just some of the things just don't add up. And then to say that Hangman Page would go into business for himself with the Colt Cabana stuff, I don't know. I mean, I've watched Hangman Page for a long time. I watched him locally. I don't know him. I've talked to him a few times, but I don't know him. I feel pretty confident to say that Hangman Page is not a person who is going to go into business for himself. Is he a person who will stand up for his friend? Absolutely. And he said it right to Punk's face on national TV. So, I mean, that kind of tells you the type of person that Hangman Page is. It just feels like something feels off, and I don't know exactly. Like, so those things don't add up a little bit to me. When I sent it to some friends, like when I sent them the report, one of their first responses was, "This is a work." He's basically said that Sean Ross Sapp is getting worked, is how they took it. He was like, none of this makes sense. Why this doesn't make sense. And then I talked to some other people, and like, as we kind of were digesting it and reading it, we were just picking things out, like, this doesn't make sense. And then of course people were aggregated, and so they had to go back. Fightful had to go back and release a statement, or like edit it and say, so they edited the part about the Colt Cabana promos, and then they also edited the fact they were like, we never said that he threatened to quit. So anybody who's aggregating this information and is saying CM Punk threatened to quit, we never said that.
Yeah.
We just said there was some concern about whether he was going to come out or not, that quitting was not a word that we used. Like, that's not something we said. And then they had to go back, and there was something else. I've got it. Hang on. I've got it here. Hang on one second, and I will tell you what they said. It was the thing about Hangman, about whether he knew it was coming, and no staff was aware. And they said they were told that Hangman was supposedly unaware as well. And so that they edited to clarify, because basically they knew it was clickbait, that they knew they could say CM Punk threatened to quit and it would make people click. And that's exactly what happened. And then you have people with their tweets who are just like, clearly, I mean, they're just saying, oh, well, CM Punk is being CM Punk, or CM Punk is not really there to help the younger guys, and all, this, and there's all kinds of things, but just something in the story has not added up. And then their reports were coming out a couple days later, where I guess some other people were confirming, yes, there is some kind of issues. There is a little bit of heat between the two of them. And then somebody said, but they're not, at this point, they're not above putting it in. A source has claimed that they can see this being worked into a TV style shoot, kind of like they did with MJF. And so it's hard to know what to believe exactly, because now, and then people have said, now MJF's name has been brought back into this, and they were like, is MJF gonna, because you know they moved CM Punk and Jon Moxley to this week, which was really weird, and that's why I thought, okay, well maybe they're gonna do something, because obviously that's the main event match, that's the match we all assumed was gonna headline All Out. So if that's not it, then maybe they do Will Ospreay, because I was trying to think like what match do you put in that position. Well, now people think it's MJF. People think MJF is coming back. They think he's going to cost CM Punk the title, or maybe he helps CM Punk get the title on Wednesday and then immediately demands his shot. I mean, people obviously are speculating and going crazy because we're wrestling fans and that's what we do. So,
whereas I just think that he's going to drop the belt to Moxley on Wednesday so he can win it back in Chicago and have a hero's victory, because he's pissed off about all the stuff that's gone on, and he is kind of, I mean, listen, I mean, whether you agree or not, like, he did sue his best friend. That was a big mess. If you go back and actually, like, please go, like, look up, do your own due diligence on the CM Punk.
There was some things that Colt Cabana apparently did as well with the lawsuit too. So
there's, I mean, nothing about that situation was pretty, and I'm not defending him, although
some people want to romanticize one person and not the other when there was some things going. There's some things that were going on both sides, and I don't think it's fair to. I mean, sure, there are definitely some things that Punk has done, and of course, I'm a huge fan of his. I'm a huge fan of Jon Moxley. I'm a huge fan of Hangman Page, and so I'm like, oh, great. Fantastic.
Well, and I mean, we're all talking about it and we're all having to weigh in on it. So who's the real winner here?
Right. AEW. And so some people, so that's why some people are of the mind that this entire thing is a work, because they are getting fans to talk about it. They're getting us to talk about it. On Thursday, there were more people talking about this than they were about NXT UK. Basically folding into NXT Europe and all these people who got cut. Maybe. You know, people are talking about that. People are talking about this more than they're talking about Kenny Omega coming back. And this
Which should honestly be the biggest story in wrestling, because people waited for it. I mean, I have people on my timeline who have been keeping count of those days.
And I have
Justin Roberts said 274. It's like, I know that because there's at least a half dozen people on my
that are having tons. And then like there's somebody now who I've seen her throughout Kenny's time away, where they've done the, you know, now she's done like day 2 of Kenny Omega being back. Like, so she's kind of earned it. And so that kind of thing. And like, I have a friend who would DM me and he was like, have you heard anything about Kenny Omega? And so if I would come across any information, like, do you want to know? And he would be like, yes, please send it to me. And then like, he wasn't really sure if he was coming back. And I was like, do you want me to tell you that this is why I think he's coming back? And so he was, it was funny. He is not a night owl. And so he was struggling. He was mad that they opened with CM Punk, because he's like, this isn't Kenny Omega. I was like, but of course not, because the ratings, Kenny Omega is coming at the end.
You gotta wait. You gotta wait for the good stuff. They keep the good stuff for the end, or the intermission.
Yeah. So I mean, and then maybe it is a shoot. Maybe there are some real life, and that's the kind of the thing that happens with wrestling. You get a lot of the backstage things, and some of the best on TV things end up being stuff that are a little. I mean, that's why the MJF stuff, you know, that last promo he cut where he was just let it all out. He was saying all of these things, and maybe some of it was a work and some of it is real life. And that's why and then he's gone and he's off TV. But it's interesting because last week or 2 weeks ago, Select put out a report saying that nobody had heard from MJF, or at least would admit that they had talked to him. They said he stayed in LA a little bit after Double or Nothing. It sounds like maybe he was doing some acting things, and then he did.
Frankly, I think that this is the weirdest way to ask for some time off ever.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. And then I think he filmed some stuff for some. They were saying that was it Impossible Jokers that he filmed Improbable. Yeah, I knew that didn't sound right. I knew that. I was like, wait, that's not it.
I only know that because it's on before May Morning News. So
see, there you go. Okay.
Ass end of it. It's a weird
Yeah, and so they've done, but they did tie in with AEW already. So they were saying, is MJF filming something because he's coming back to AEW, or is this something completely separate from that? And so, and then right after that, so that report came out like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. That Friday was the live Rampage, and there was a sign that said "Pay MJF." Nobody has been having MJF signs for months. And then now we have two prominent signs talking about paying MJF for the last couple of weeks. And so it just, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's not at all. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we've been played this whole time. Maybe. But the only thing is, like, I think another thing that kind of is interesting with the CM Punk stuff is he comes back. He clearly is going to come back for the title. He had a 5-day title reign, but then all of a sudden he's not going to come. Then now he's threatening to not come out on TV. Just the timing seems weird. And I know politics are weird and politics change things. And maybe something happened.
I think to me there is something going on backstage. That
I do think there's some backstage.
I think there's some actual legitimate, whatever you want to say about it, whether it's that people don't like that he got to come in and be treated this way after a lot of people. I know there was some talk about, people feeling like they had been there the whole time, and then this guy comes in and he gets treated like royalty and they're getting pushed aside. And there's clearly, I think, to me,
make that which I can see that argument, and I'm not saying that I don't want to invalidate
viable,
the argument.
I mean,
but you can make that argument for Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole, and all these people being brought in too. So you could make that argument. But and like I'm saying, I'm not invalidating these people and they're being upset. I'm not trying to do that at all. But I'm just saying that you could make that. Then again, on the other hand, CM Punk
maybe that was the breaking point for people. Maybe Punk was the last straw for some people.
Could have been. Yeah.
Maybe MJF thought that he should have been the one to win that title and not CM Punk, and that they just gave it to him without him earning it because ratings.
He did earn it. He did go. They did do it properly. Like, they didn't just. He went through, like, he wrestled Darby. He went through and he had these feuds and he worked his way up the rankings just like everybody else. So, but in the backstage,
maybe they're going to come out on Wednesday, or maybe not this coming up Wednesday, but the go home Wednesday, and be like, "Ha ha! You've all been played. Yeah. Here's an awesome card. You're all going to buy it."
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, because I thought of it. So we were talking about the stuff with MJF. So I was like, okay, well, maybe MJF is coming back. Was this the plan all along? I don't know, because he can't.
Again, and maybe the CM Punk's injury is part of it.
I mean, I think CM Punk's injury is legit. Like,
I think all the injuries are legit.
Right.
And I think that it changed
what they were planning to. Yeah. And so they had to put it, and so they put the title on Jon Moxley because he didn't have a chance to when he was champion. It was without fans. Yeah, and so they put it back on Jon. So they put it on Jon Moxley with the knowing he was going to lose in 3 months when CM Punk came back that. Yeah, so like,
he has been kind of saying a lot of people, FYI, I think that is what he's been saying, which is actually F your interim title is actually what Moxley has been apparently meaning. And he's been saying that the whole time. He's been burying the interim title.
Right.
Almost the entire time he's had it.
Right. And then maybe that's why it was the setup for whatever is coming. I don't know. And then, again, like, are we, because they are, and it sounds like maybe because there are backstage issues, they've decided they're going to bring it into TV.